Well, today, kind of a request. Would I do the something 310? Said Eddie. I haven't got one. So I've noticed something here. We've got a new Team MX10. We've got a new PNI 9001. And I reckon that they look the same. Okay. So there may be a difference in the chassis used. So we'll look into this. I'll tell you what, we won't do the PNI one. We'll do the Team MX10 instead. And I also seem to think that the Thunderbolt T2000 may also be the same, but I'll have to go over to a different facility where we've got one of those in store. So we'll do the MX10. Oh, it's like nasty, rattly cellophane. And it's a cigarette lighter plug, so we are geared up for that these days. So without bashing one of the microphones, we'll put that box back together and pick the mic up, which is too light for its own good. Oh, I'm really sad there's no seal to break. I love breaking seals and invalidating the warranty. So what's its country of origin? There's a handy card here. We'll put that back in the box before we lose that as well. So, where's English and what do we have to do? Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll start off by connecting it up. This is a new set, as you can see, but I don't think it's as new as it is supposed to be, because I think somebody has had it out of the box. Is that because it's broken? I expect it came from the wholesaler, but that means nothing. So the microphone has a 6-pin plug on the end, and I prefer those type of plugs than those modular ones, which seem to be all the rage. Okay, so we'll connect it up to the test set. It's not actually easy to screw the locking ring of the antenna connector because of the way the heatsink fins are. It's a 1224 volt set if I didn't say that, and there's an extension speaker socket on the back. Right, we'll switch on the power supply. You see, that has come on channel 19 UK. It wouldn't do that if it was new, would it? The plot thickens. We'll come back to how we alter that. I'm just going to see how many watts it's doing straight out of the box. Doing 3, that's about par for the course. And the deviation, wow, at 1.8. Wow, actually, the deviation peaks at 2.2. So I think this is pre-fiddled with. Right, we'll look inside it. Screws not as tight as the other ones. Pluggable speakers always handy, so that's out. Well, what was I doing the other day? Because it looks the same. There's a reed relay there. Is this a hair? Somebody's dog been in it. I'm going to take the bottom off as well. Now these screws have never been out. I can see a solder splodge, you see. And there's nothing worse than a solder splodge that then goes in the works. Now if this was brand new, there couldn't be a solder splodge because the case would be put on later after the radio was finished. So somebody's been in and fiddled. No, the solder splodge isn't there. I'm still seeing a solder splodge. I don't know whether we can see that on the camera. It's actually against the front panel. I've got rid of it. You do not want that in the works. So how could that get there? Has somebody been touching up the soldering on there? Right, we'll do a bit of research and we'll see. It's got some adjustments, which is all good. So this is going to be the transmitter line. So we've got no adjustments in the transmitter, but there's one there which is probably, could well be power. This is going to be the receiver line, and then that's going to be the AM modulator, because the audio amp's there and modulation transformers there. So one of those is going to be AM modulation. What annoys me is when they're not labelled, or if I can't find out, I then end up upsetting AM modulation. Then I've got to go and faff about going into AM and reset that when I don't actually want the radio to. It doesn't have to work in AM. We don't have to look into that normally because we're only doing UK channels FM, not interested in CPT. So we have adjustment there, which chances are is deviation, and we've got 2 here in the receive, so we could have squelch, and we could have there may be an auto squelch, it may be those, and as I say, one's going to be modulation, and the other could be S meter. It has an RF gain which is concentric with the squelch control. And yes, it does have auto squelch. Right, I'll just do a bit of research. We'll pause the video and we'll take it from there. Okay, so there isn't anything on the net apart from daft modifications to make it illegal. These jumpers are all to do with the export mode and things. So I've made a note what those jumper settings are, because I know that in the future I'm going to end up with a set that's fiddled with and I won't know how to get it back to what it should be. So I know that the one there in the PA is the top 2, and I know the 2 different jumpers here is the top 2 in all cases. So that will help me with haywire radios in the future. So I will start with the transmitter like we do, and we'll just move that camera slightly. And we'll get the other camera onto the power meter and we'll take it from there. Okay, and as ever, the background music system's gone over to radio and is in competition with me. So, as I said, this seems to have been previously fiddled with. 3 watts. So I reckon that is going to be the trimmer here for transmit, and it is. There's 3.6 watts. Just remember 3.6 of my watts are probably 4.5 normal CB type watts, because this is a commercial test set, so I'll never worry about that. So that's it, we've done transmit. Let's see what it says on the display. Full set of bars. Remember, I'm optimizing this solely on UK channels. I'm not interested in CPT channels. No one we have as customers uses CPT channels because they don't work here. This S7 of rubbish. All my customers are business users, and by that I mean they're usually farmers who are chatting on the tractors, and that is absolutely great. So they don't want to be They're not 1/9 copy people. Not that you can do that. Not that you ever could do that, because the Burning Brigade live on 19, or the music players. So, deviation. This seems to have already been fiddled with. So we'll just pop that up a fraction. Put that up to 1.8 on there. Yeah, 2.2 to 2.5. That's worked out a treat. So I am correct. That is deviation, which is just there. Now we'll get the thing on frequency. I'll just move the camera across to the display because I can. $27,79119. You can't quite see that. Or shall we widen it a bit? So that is next to the crystal there. It's nice for a new set to be able to adjust that. It's always the wrong way. I'll just check to make sure we're at 13.8 volts. I think that's about where we want to be, just slightly high. So I'm hoping I don't have to go into AM and mess about with the modulation. Hoping. Because I think it'll be that one. Right, it's going to receive. Better change the signal generator to something a bit nearer. And we'll drop the squelch. Make sure the RF gain's up. Well, like a lot of modern sets, it's receiving quite well, if not very well. So right now, right at this second, it is doing it's doing 1.85 microvolts for 20 dB. Let's do the 12 figure. Needs to be on the next scale. It's doing 0.66. Okay, let's see whether we can improve that. So go back to the camera and we'll put the camera onto the oscilloscope. And let's see, with an S9 signal, if we can improve on what I believe to be the detector. I may be wrong. We will have to go into AM. That'll probably have upset that. Yep. Right, we'll move away from that. The detector circuit must be a different technique. And we'll move on to the cyanide meter. So I'll drop the signal generator for about 4 decibels there. And turn the volume down a bit. And we'll go through these coils. We've come up a fraction on that, so we'll drop the attenuation down. Just go through them again. Just make sure that one, I believe, has something to do with the AM detector is not being affected. That's right. Good. So I'll now take those readings again. Now, where did I put my little notebook? Ah, yes. So it is the Team MX10. So 20 dB, 12 dB, 10 dB. So let's see what we've got now, and then we'll look at that previous figure. So we'll start with 20. Can't quite get it there. That looks like 20 to me. You're looking at it as on a slight angle. I'm looking at it straight on. So I've now got .6 microvolts at 20 dB. Now, to get 12, we need to be on the other scale. And for 12 dB, it's now 0.56. I'll just check that again. 0.55, 0.56, 556. Yeah. And then for 10 decibel cyanide, it's 0.45 microvolts. Now, before, bring the clipboard back. Before I did that, I'll just zoom out a bit. So for 20 dB, it was 1.85. It's now 1.6. For 12 dB, it was 0.66. It's now 0.56. So there is quite an improvement, even though it looked very small on the instruments when I was doing it. So that's gone now. I've done 3.6 watts. So we'll look at the S9, which is 100 microvolts in the UK, and see what that reads. It's reading plus 30, which I don't want it to do. Now it's guess time. This is great fun. Are any of these to do with the S meter? We'll start with that one there. Well, I guessed that right. But it doesn't let us do what I would have expected. Oops, I've knocked channel. So it's not that. We'll have to discover what that is. It's actually the lower one, or the one towards the back, where that chip is. But look, it moves in blocks of 3. So we can't actually set S9. Which is, yeah, really smart. So it looks like there's all those different segments, but there's only 4 because they're in 3s. Well, if that's the case, I wonder if there is a transmit one. And I wonder if that towards me is the transmit one. I'm clutching at straws, I've no idea. No. Back to where we were. So we'll look at the Squelch. Set threshold. Switch the signal generator back on. Nothing. So, is that lower one Squelch? No. Is that one I thought was meter originally Squelch? Yes. Okay, so now we'll get this set, and it's 100 microvolts at full whack is where we want it to be. So switch that on. At the moment that's 1 millivolt, so we'll just back that off a bit. No. No. This is a swine to adjust. Oh wow, I've done it. So we've now got on full squelch, S9 opening the squelch. So we'll now go back to the other end. Set the threshold. Switch the signal generator back on. Well, it's not as sensitive as I would like, but let's look. It's coming in. Just over 1 microvolt, and it's dropping off at 0.6. So that should be alright. I just like them a little bit more sensitive than that, but that's how it's going to be. Now it's got auto squelch. I'll make a note of what we're adjusting here, because I don't want to get muddled up. So we came to the conclusion that was squelch. We came to the conclusion that was S meter. So we've got auto squelch, something and something. So let's go into auto squelch. So is that other preset auto squelch? Nope. Is that preset auto squelch? It's not going to be that. That'll be AM. Okay, so auto squelch is clearly a factory thing. Let's see how it performs. So we're in auto squelch. We'll put a signal on, and it's actually coming in at 0.55 and it's leaving us at 0.3. So it, like a lot of modern radio, the auto squelch is more sensitive than the possible adjustment for manual squelch. So if you're wanting maximum range with squelch, auto squelch works better than manual squelch. So that's an interesting point, and I'll remember that when we do the scratchy corner test and beyond. So we're absolutely stuck what that is, and so now I'm going to have to go back. We'll program it as AM, and I'll have to mess about with the AM modulation to get that back right. So let's see how we program the radio. When we find English, it also tells us what pins what, and this is readily downloadable because I just did so. So if we're in UK and we change it just goes between EC and FM, so it doesn't allow us to select AM when we're into CPT. So we're going to have to set it up for EU channels as we thought we would. Yeah. Norm settings. To enter the norm selection mode, hold both the key lock button and the memory channel while turning the radio on. Okay, so switch it off. So the key lock and memory. So that and on. Oh yeah. I think it's EU we want when it's like that. Let's see whether that works out. So mode. Yeah. So now we're in AM. I may as well put the other camera on so at least you can see what we're doing here. We'll move that camera back down onto the wrong camera. We'll just move the other camera back down onto the instruments. So we'll unplug the extension speaker to stop the feedback. Doing 3.5 watts, it's spot on frequency, and we now want AM modulation. So I'll have to retune the modulation monitor because we've dropped frequency. Wallow. So we'll get the oscillator back out. So as you can see with the oscillator, we're at, try and get that centred onto the mic. That's just over 60%. So let's see if it's that control, which I guessed it would be. Yeah. There we go. Leave that at 75%. Clipboard. AM mod. We'll just see whether there's anything to do with it. AM. What? Okay, bring back the oscillator. Sometimes you've got depth. Yeah. So is that power? Is that depth? Let's have a look. Go back to power. Wallow. That looks like AM depth. Could be lying, of course, but that's how it looks to me. Because it'd be handy if we had a service manual, wouldn't it? So we know that these are all the receive ones. And that leaves us with one preset that we didn't find out. So if that was Squelch, I'd have thought that was auto Squelch, but it isn't. Just needed while we were in AM to make sure that that coil is set up properly on receive, because I think that's a receive one. So we'll just do that. So we're on, we'll put it on channel 20. $27,205. So 27,205 AM. Put the extension speaker back in. And that's now set for peak on AM. So that appears to be AM detector. Of course, as I say, might be totally lying. So we've just got that one, which we can't figure out. So I'm not going to mess with it till the cows come home. It doesn't have CTCSS, does it? I don't think it does. Oh, is it one of those where we've got a power level in another country? Could be. But it does say 4 watts, 4 watts, 4 watts, 4 watts. So no, I can't think. Okay, we don't know what that one is. Not relevant. Okay. So that appears to be everything that we can sort out. Just leaves us with that one mystery. Just don't know. Right, I'll program it back for UK. So switch it off, lock, mem, switch on. There's UK, switch it off, switch it back on again, and there we are. I bet this display is alterable in colour. Let's have a look at that. So it's got dual watch, background illumination, 7 colours. It's got memory channels as well. So turn the background light on or off, or switch between 7 colours by pressing the background illumination key, LCR. I thought it was normally last channel recall, but there we are. Oh yeah, you switch it off. Yes, green normally suits me. And it's got scan. Like that. Right, we'll put that back together. So I thought the worst when it seems to have been opened up and fiddled with, but it does work all right. So it doesn't do anything surprising, which is always a worry when you end up. This is why we buy from the whole. Well, apart from being in business, one of the reasons we buy from wholesalers and not off eBay is so that they come to us factory fresh in a sealed box. But this is definitely not the case with this one. So. Because I suppose I'd be disappointed if I was a retail customer. Or would I notice if I was a retail customer? You know, I don't know. Well, we managed to get that back in finally. Does that internal speaker actually work? Yes, it does. Right, we'll get that put back together, and then we'll just pop it on the air, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, so those of you who want to know, it's 170 milliamps in standby, and it is 1.2 amps on transmit, and when it's receiving, it's about 260 milliamps. So we'll go into auto squelch, we'll press scan and see if anything actually happens, and then later on we'll get Mr. Chippy to do an on the air test. It's picking up some quite whacking signals, I'd have thought, but it doesn't respond, so I don't know what that's about. Okay, we'll go out to scan. This S meter means absolutely nothing. We've got no signal there, so we've got no bar graph. S5 on that one, nothing on that one. Okay, so disappointing S meter, a non-adjustable power meter, and but otherwise it seems to be quite a nice radio. It's got good sensitivity, it does 3.6 watts, and it's got deviation, which is fine. So we'll see you again when we just do the on the air test later on today. So thank you for watching the Team MX10.